You're listening to One Bright Star's Life After Loss, a podcast that's focused on the lifelong journey of life after loss, with your hosts Erica Fisher and Alicia Moore. One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast is sponsored by the law firm of Burkholtz and Associates. And now, One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast.
Hello and welcome to One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast. I'm Erica Fisher, Executive Director with One Bright Star.
And Alicia Moore, President of One Bright Star.
And today we have our friend Alayna with us. Hi, Alayna.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So I reached out to Alayna because she made this amazing post on Facebook about her brother. And I got all the feels from it. I was sweaty-eyed and had goosebumps. And it was almost like I was sitting next to her and she was telling me the story, and I was like, we need her to come share her story. So, Alayna, I'll let you have the floor. Go ahead.
Alrighty. So, my brother, Nolan, was 25 at the time of his motorcycle accident last year in August of 2020. So, he was just enjoying a nice sunny 80-degree day on his bike and chose to ride out to Zumbrota to go visit some friends of his that also rode bike. And he was on a right away, but a vehicle crossing the intersection came out. We don't know if he didn't see him. According to the police report, it shows that there was no alcohol involved in either driver, which is good.
Yes.
Anyways, this other driver was in a big Yukon SUV, so of course a motorcycle compared to a SUV is not going to win. So my brother wasn't wearing a helmet, and there was a reason for that. And well, since I'm here, you all probably know that he didn't make it then. So,
right.
But he didn't wear a helmet because he strongly believed that he didn't want to be a vegetable if something were to happen. If it was him going out on his bike, he wanted to go out. Not saying that that's always what happens with non-helmet wearing bikers, but that's what happened in this situation, which we're really glad for, because to have the heartstrain of an accident being crippling to someone and then having them live through it and then having to make a call later on, that would have even been more difficult. So it's been about a year. August 9th was the day of the accident.
So just a year.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So it's been one hard year. My brother was younger than myself. I also have a sister who was younger than me. I'm the oldest of three. All three of us were adopted. We grew up outside of Mankato, about 45 minutes north of town here. And my dad's a crop farmer, so we're full country style living.
Yeah.
Got to thank my sister for bringing horses out to the farm. Not a fan of those, but it is what it is. Whitney, if you're listening, sorry. My brother was a true farm kid. He enjoyed having his first vehicle be a pickup truck. He really enjoyed dirt biking out on the farm, and he drove the lawnmower. Of course, in the country, you have a big riding lawnmower because you're not going to push a push mower all around the country. So he loved driving my parents' lawnmower as like a race car, and he would ride his little, 2-speed, the kids' bikes.
The little BMXers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he would ride that and, fake that he did like a 360 off the little mini hill that we have or whatever.
Fun.
And so he really enjoyed that. So those fond memories are what's going to help with those hard times. But, that's...
You guys sound like, from your Facebook post, what I read, and that was a tribute to your brother, Nolan, on it being a year of him being gone. And it sounds like you guys were really, really close.
We were. My sister, not to divulge all my family information, but my sister was sick when she was in elementary school. And so my parents were heavily involved with her illness and getting her better. She had childhood leukemia. So there were a couple of strenuous times with her recovery and her battle. And so my parents were one off and one was always working. So my brother and I who were at home, and since I was 15 or 16 when she was diagnosed, my parents really leaned heavily on me watching my brother, babysitting until, late hours, helping making food, doing laundry, the whole 9 yards. And so that was always a bonding moment for my brother and I. And we would watch movies, or we would go for walks with the dog, or just hang out on the deck and entertain each other. And so we got to be really close with that time. I'm already choking up.
That's okay. That's okay. You won't be alone.
So he got to be my best friend in high school.
And what's the age difference?
So he was 6 years younger than I.
Because I remember you putting my not so little big, or my not so, or something.
My not so big little brother.
Yeah, or something like that.
Or
my big little brother.
My big,
yeah.
Oh gosh, it's 2 days ago. I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. So I'll give a little bit more background of us three. So my parents adopted all three of us. So my sister and I are actually international adoptions from Calcutta, India. And then my brother was a local adoption out of the central Minnesota area around Northfield. And with that, he had Caucasian heritage, so he was a little bit taller than us Indian folk. And so he was near 6 foot. I don't know if he was over 6 foot, but he was near it.
You're not
and so
6 foot.
No, I'm lucky if I am taller than a 5th grader at this point. So I'm just over 5 foot myself. So I like to round up. So I say I'm 5'1", but
I like that.
Strong work.
Yes, and that little inch always gives a little bit more. So we always referred to Nolan as our bigger little brother, and he just always protected my sister and I whenever it came to bees or Dad being upset because we didn't do chores or whatever.
Right.
We'd always say, oh, well, Nolan's the big one. He can do it. We can't lift that.
Right.
Why are we picking rocks? Nolan can lift them all. So anyways, he kind of got the brunt of the farm work. So sorry about that, bro. But he enjoyed it, though. He really enjoyed living in the country, and it was his true meaning and purpose in life was to farm or just be in the country. And so anyways, when he was growing up, he decided to go into the military, and so he went down to basic and he wrote letters home, and I wrote letters back, of course. So I found those recently in a drawer, and that just brought me to my knees. But it was so nice to find them. I had found them over the course of the last year, and I was like, oh, I need to, save or laminate these or something. And well, then I put them in a folder, and of course, you know how things get. Your life gets busy, and all of a sudden it's 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever later, and you're like, oh yeah, I was going to do that. But he did deploy over to Afghanistan for a few months, and he enjoyed doing the work that he did over there. And then he came home, and he was stationed out of Colorado Springs in Colorado. So we always went out there, and I did a couple of sibling trips out there to go visit my sister and my brother, because my sister also moved out there.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So she met her husband out there now, and they live down in Georgia now. So that's kind of the new thing, is to go down there and visit her and enjoy the time that we have together. Because with Nolan, we really just learned that,
right.
You always hear that life's not guaranteed. Live each day.
That's so true.
To its fullest, but you never think that, oh, that's going to happen to me. And the last time I saw my brother, it was at the end of July. We lost my grandpa about 3 years prior to this. So on his birthday, since my grandpa's gravesite is near Mankato, my brother and I had planned to go out there and just have a cheers to Grandpa and just sit and talk to Grandpa.
So cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes.
So I had seen him at the end of July, and I mean, it's summertime. Farmers are so busy, so I usually don't see my dad or my brother very often during the summer. And unless it's raining, but then they're fixing something, so you're still not seeing them. And when you call them, they're like, what do you want?
Right.
It's not a, oh, hi, how are you? What you doing today? Love you, Dad. So he and I, we had a good time. And, something on that day I remember, I was like, it was just a long day at work. And I'm like, I really don't feel like going out there and sitting in the humidity and whatnot. But something in my heart just said, no, you need to go out there and spend some time with your brother, since, it was a gorgeous day. And I was like, well, if Nolan's not farming today, then I need to take this up. So I did. And that was the last time that I'd seen him before his accident. So I'm really thankful that something in my mind or my heart told me, nope.
Thank you, Grandpa.
Yes. Yep. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Grandpa. So he and I had a good time the last time we saw each other. And I feel a little bad for my sister because she lives out of state still. And she hadn't seen my brother in almost a year, because it's usually around Thanksgiving or Christmas. And that's about it. So she had a little bit harder time with it, but we all have a difficult time.
Your parents.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, my brother and my dad were working hard to get my dad into a retirement type stage for him to farm less and my brother take over the farming business. And my brother was really enjoying learning the tactics that he maybe just took for granted that my dad was doing beforehand, and learning about commodity trades and the numbers game and the betting that you have to do as a farmer with, okay, well, not saying that they go by the almanac, but what's predicted this year? How did things turn out last year? What was the soil return? And like things that you don't even think of. You just think, oh, they drive a tractor, they plow it up, and they put the seed in. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's all they do, because
It's very involved. So yes.
Very.
Yes.
And every once in a while you figure out that, oh, well, I guess there was some fertilizer needed. Oh, okay. So that comes in that version. Oh, you can't use that version for this one? Oh, okay. Well, what? And then, my dad describing all this to me. I'm like, you lost me at, okay, here it goes.
Right.
yeah.
So Nolan was really enjoying learning those trades of agriculture and finding out what the FSA office needs and what the EPA requires. And so it was a hard hit for my dad. But then my mom, Nolan was the baby of the family, so moms always enjoy their baby a little bit more than they do the oldest or the middle child.
And he's a boy.
And yes, he was the only boy. And, so, yeah, that was, Nolan always thought he had it tough, and I'm just like, really? Dude, I'm the oldest. What do you think? I had a curfew at 10 o'clock, and if I wasn't home by 9:59, then, I had my back end chewed. But here, you're out till 2 a.m. when you're only 16 years old. And, oh, Nolan, I hope you had a grand old time.
That's how it always goes.
Granted, I was in college at this time, so it wasn't like I was home until 2 a.m. either. But
Right. So what do you and your family do to honor and remember Nolan now that it's been a year? Did you guys do something special? Did you spend some time together? And
to be honest, we haven't really done a whole lot of celebrating other than just taking moments to remember. This first year has really been tough, and I'll go back to Nolan was a big guy. Again, he was 6 foot and probably 250 pounds. He was built like a linebacker. And so when we decided on his process for the funeral, we chose to cremate him. And we did learn that he was a little bit of a bigger guy. And so we needed more than one urn. And so with that, we ended up going with the option of both my sister and I getting a portion of my brother, and then my parents got a portion of my brother. So he's split across the states right now.
that's really kind of cool. Yeah.
So that's kind of our homage to him, that each of us are able to cherish him whenever we see fit with having an urn of his. But we also have, pictures and a little, I don't want to call it a shrine, but, we have a little end table with his urn and his flag with his military service and his program from the very limited drive-through funeral that we had
I
during the
suppose
pandemic.
I didn't even put that into perspective, that all of that. Wow. I can't imagine going to a funeral during the pandemic.
Yes. So that was a whole story. So he had his own house in our hometown, and we stayed local with our funeral home, of course. So it was actually a friend of his from high school. It's her dad that was our funeral home director, which was really great because then Greg was his name, and I don't know how we could have done this without Greg, because he was so great. And Nolan actually dated this girl, so Greg was like, oh my goodness, I remember when, his daughter and Nolan would be hanging out at the house, and he just had all these stories, and it just built that confidence and that comfort, I guess, for us, that, we could just cry at the funeral home and he would just take care of it.
And I found that when in situations like this, we need to rely on our community, and just like you did with whether it be the funeral director, and if it's a smaller town, the community comes together, and I think that's so important. And
it really was. So then, we decided on the cremation after he gave us our options. And Nolan, from his accident, since he didn't have a helmet on, he actually was in really good condition from chest up. It was internal organs in his abdomen and then spinal injuries that caused his death. So, we could have had a casket type funeral, but due to the pandemic and the surge that we were in last year or beginning of August, we were just like, we don't want to take that risk. There was no vaccines or anything to that point. It was all reactive still. So instead, we chose to do a drive-through type service, and luckily, the funeral home has kind of like a little drive-through canopy that you can pull through. So we lined up that entire drive full of pictures and the plants and flowers and different memories that we had with him. And oh goodness, he was on display with his urn, and his flag was there, and they did a military tribute, which was awesome. And
I was just going to ask how they handled that.
Yep. And Greg knew all this stuff about Nolan because of him keeping a friendship with Greg's daughter. And so, they just knew that you call the local Legion or VFW. I don't remember who takes it on, but whoever it is. And then, they took care of the urns, and they took care of some other things. And due to the pandemic, some places were shut down. So we ended up doing our own programs because you couldn't order programs through the funeral home in the amount of time that we were planning our ceremony, drive-through, whatever you call it. So, because it was only, let's see here, his accident was on Sunday evening, and we had it the following Saturday. So it was a really quick turnaround, or Sunday, I think it was. But anyway, so that was really, really a big day. And the entire week, I don't remember 90% of what happened. I just know that I ended up somehow taking the reins and figured out plans with Greg, and
that was big.
My mom and dad
that's a lot. That's a lot to take.
You definitely stepped up, and yes.
And I have to give kudos to my groups of friends, because without Joy, Deb, Kuhn, Brent, Sally, these groups of friends that I had just really came together to help me out. My printer was acting up, so I called Joy, and Joy's like, oh, my printer won't do that, so let me call Deb. And Deb and Kuhn were able to print it on like a professional printer, and they just turned out 3 times as great as what my printer would have done. And they just checked in continuously. And another circle of friends of mine, Betsy and Laminda, were just really great with still checking in and making sure that my dog was taken care of.
See, and that's your support system. They were your support system, and I think that's so important in tragic times, because you're probably just you're moving to the motion kind
It
of thing.
is.
And you don't really realize what's going on, or you can't comprehend because there's so much going on. And that you have a good support system. That's amazing because you took on a lot, and
Yeah.
you know, you're going through a huge loss. You lost your best friend.
I did.
Yeah.
And I just realized I haven't even answered your question that you asked me. So what did we do to pay homage to my brother? I mean, you know, like I was saying, we didn't really do a whole lot, but we do have that little station at my parents' house. And some of my parents' friends and close family members, you know, they still say, oh, you know, we had this memory pop up on our Snapchat memories or on our Google memories, or, you know, whatever they are. Everything has memories nowadays. So, you know, they always share that with us. And we have a shared album that, you know, they just put those videos or those pictures in. So that's, I guess, really how we pay that homage. And
That's
it's
really
not
cool.
big,
No,
but
Yes.
that
it's-
is big though, because it brings back those memories, and it helps you cherish and honor and remember, because you don't want to ever forget Nolan, and you don't want to
No.
stop saying Nolan, you know. I mean,
know.
so that's a perfect way to honor and remember him, by pictures, and you know, those are cherishable.
Yes.
You know, you can't replace them.
Yeah, and you know, there's always those what ifs and oh, I should have's. Like I hate voicemail. If people leave me a voicemail, I'm like, oh, well,
I don't listen to
okay.
mine either.
So, and I mean, that was something that I think my brother picked up from me, because he used to not care, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, you don't save your voicemails? I'm like, heck no, why would I save my voicemails? But then after losing my brother, I'm like, I'm never going to hear his voice again. And he didn't have his voicemail set up. It was just the standard, you've reached 507, ... And so that's something that I really cherish out of those videos that come on, because then I can hear his laugh, or I can hear him giving me a quick comeback. So like one of the videos I posted in my tribute earlier this week was his laugh, and we were playing a card game, BS, and I remember this day in full, and that's why I chose this in my Facebook tribute to him, because I was just like, oh my gosh, he was so mad that because he always won BS, and he just had a really good poker face, so I'll just be honest. And I don't, because then I'm like looking at my hand, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And don't ever invite me to poker unless you want to lose.
Right.
I'm inviting her.
So anyways, I was just losing like crazy, and then all of a sudden, you know, just being able to call his BS every single time, and he ended up with the entire deck other than 2 cards is what I had left. And so he was just like, so I just had to pull out my phone and record it, because it was just so funny. I had to record this moment in history with us because of how much I always lost, and to be able to replay that video
And hear him.
and hear his laugh
Yeah.
and see his smile and just see that joy that he had. It was amazing.
You know, when you talk, Alayna, it sounds like, I know Nolan was only 25, but he lived a huge life.
He did.
Yeah, that's
He experienced so much joy and happiness, and the closeness that you had, which you got in that 25 years with him. Some people don't get in a lifetime of 50 to 75 years. And so that's just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I did call it out in my post, as you probably remember. It was just so great to be able to know that, you know, he was able to own a home, experience traveling. I mean, as a family, we traveled a lot, and then to travel with the military and experience different areas of the States, and, you know, owning a house, owning your first vehicle, owning a bike, enjoying a motorcycle ride. You know, he took me on one ride, and that's all I was giving him. But he did take me on one ride on one of my birthdays back to my house from the restaurant that we ate at. And he's like, see, it's not so bad. I'm like, my hair is a mess.
so fun.
Oh, geez.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
That's awesome. So I think that everything that you do to honor and remember him is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's only been a year. We would love to have you back again, because so much happens in a year. It's all the firsts, and you still have a lot of journeying to go through. Obviously, every day is, but just so many things to still process. And so, but thank you for coming today and sharing what you have. in your heart, and that's Nolan and all those wonderful memories.
All right. Thank you so much, Alayna.
Yes, thank you.
And cheers to Nolan.
Cheers.
Yes.
All right. Until next time, this is One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast. Life After Loss is a copyrighted production of One Bright Star. One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast is sponsored by the law firm of Burkholtz and Associates. For more information on the lifelong journey after losing a loved one, please visit our website at onebrightstar.org.